started now just to make sure that's going to be working. I haven't had that fail yet, and hopefully this will not be the first time, but it says pause and stop. So that's a good sign that that recording is in progress. So I'll take it. Uh, all right, we'll go ahead and get the PowerPoint going here, and I just switched over to 2 o'clock. So um, why don't we go ahead and get rolling, and I'll say hi and good afternoon and good morning, or I have no idea where all of you are at because I get registrations from everywhere, but thanks so much for jumping in and joining, and um, uh, hope you're ready for some fire hose in a little bit, and I'll try and explain it as best as I can. But traffic handling, something that I've been doing for a few years now, and the way I got started with it though was 15 years ago or so. I was working with an Aries Races group up in Michigan. That's why I got an 8 in my call sign, even though I'm in Texas. And we were preparing for a simulated emergency test, and they were ready to give me my assignment, and they said, we need you to go to this hospital, and we need you to pass this radiogram from the hospital to the emergency operations center. And they handed it to me, and I looked at it, and I looked at them, and I said, I have no idea what you're talking about. And so that started my journey into traffic handling and what the radiogram format is, and that whole side of the business. For those of you that took the ARRL Learning Network session on the art of traffic handling and things, the first 15 minutes or so are going to seem familiar, but then when we get into the radiogram and its components, we're going to do a much deeper dive than what I did during that session. So there will be interesting things, but for those that haven't had any exposure, I still want to give the background. So we'll do that first, and then we'll do the deeper dive. Again, if any questions while we're rolling through things, feel free to throw them in the chat. I try and catch them as best I can. All right, well, let's roll through things. So kind of what we want to do today is a high-level overview of the traffic system. I don't want to get down to the nitty-gritties because we could be there all day. So just kind of a high level to help you understand what happens when traffic is moving. The skills that you can build from participating in traffic nets and traffic handling. And then we'll dive into the radiogram and its various components, and then some hands-on practice. And then again, once we wrap up at about an hour and 15 minutes, I'm going to stick around if there's additional questions or things, or sometimes it's, well, how does WinLink work with this or things? And so it just kind of depends on your questions, kind of where we navigate after that. But happy to stick around and answer questions once we kind of get through the PowerPoint side of things. So, all right, let's start with the 30,000 foot view of the traffic system, which is essentially just an organized network of hams that move messages, or what we technically call traffic, but in this case messages, across the country and beyond. And this started back in 1914, 1915s when things started forming. As I mentioned in the learning network, that, well, what year does what does 1915 have to do with the ARRL all up? And it's the year the ARRL formed. This is why the ARRL exists. It was formed to relay traffic across the country. So this is the relay in ARRL. So if you ever get that weird trivia question of just what is the relay in ARRL, this is the answer. This relaying is why the league exists, and the whole reason that we've got what we've got with ARRL. So the different types of things that we can move over the traffic system, we categorize traffic into 4 buckets. The most pressing one is emergency traffic, and this is where we're talking life or death matters. I need fuel for this generator in 6 hours, or survivors need to go to this shelter at this address, or those really critical incident type messages where you got to get the message through and you got to get it moved right now. They get front of the line access and that whole bit. Those are the highest category of traffic that we can move. Up next is priority traffic. It's still related to incidents and things, mainly for where time is of the essence, but we're not quite in life or death territory. Could be notifications about impact for an area, so number of injuries, or number of residents is impacted, or different things like that. Then we move to the welfare traffic, and this is kind of the common one that we're called on during incidents. This is the I want to let my family know that I'm okay, or hey, I want to check on my family member. Can you get that request down there type of thing? And so we'll move welfare traffic. So like you know the name of the hurricanes escaping my mind that went through Houston and in Puerto Rico. We're moving welfare-based traffic from those incidents. And then the catch-all routine traffic. And so these are the general messages, the happy birthdays, happy New Year, Merry Christmas, and or maybe some of you have gotten the welcome to the hobby, enjoy the fun and friendships you will make, or contact your local ARRL representative to learn more about these types of messages. The general routine traffic are what help us to test the system to make sure that we're ready to go, and help stations build those traffic handling skills. So sometimes I get the question of, well, is this traffic really helpful? I don't want to bog the system down. Yes, it is very helpful. And even during field day, when stations are, I want to get my points for field day, which is, an excellent way to get into traffic handling. Well, I'm going to bring these 10 pieces of traffic. Is that going to jam the system? It's like, please bring it. We definitely want to test it out and want to see what happens, right? If we get a flood of traffic all of a sudden, are we ready to go, or are there things that we can improve from that? So if you're thinking, well, should I send a happy birthday or should I send a good to see you or thing? Yeah, please feel free to use the traffic system to move those types of things. It very much helps us test things out. NTS is generally US and Canada focused, but we can move global traffic. If you've ever gotten any traffic from Peter, DL4FN, he is in Germany and he regularly sends things here stateside, and we send things back. So if you have a piece of traffic that's going to go out of the country, as long as the reciprocity agreements are there, then you're good to go. You might be able to think of one country offhand that we really don't talk to, so I wouldn't send any traffic there because we can't send it to that one type of thing. But we've had stations on the local nets that, well, I have someone in the military in Japan. And it's like very much you can move that through the traffic system, and it will connect into MARS, the Military Auxiliary Radio Service, and make its way across to Japan through there. We move them through the traditional things that you would think of when working on the air. So voice, FM, or phone, Morse code, so CW, digital, so digital traffic nets, and that could be WinLink, or some folks have been asking, well, can you use FL Digi? And yep, it has a radiogram template type of thing. So the general modes that you would think of for running on the air are the same ones that apply for traffic handling. All right, let's check out the question here. When you mentioned to move routine traffic to test the system, are you referring to message transmission by voice or other methods, or other methods such as CW, Morse code, or digital? The answer is all of them. So when a piece of traffic gets introduced, and I'll kind of walk through this in just a second, it can jump across modes. It's not necessarily it enters on a local 2-meter FM net and it stays in voice the rest of the way. It can maneuver and switch modes and that type of thing as it's making its moves. And so whether that traffic is introduced on an FM net or on an HF net by phone or CW, or if it's brought in digitally, like if you're using WinLink and you connect over the air to a gateway or that type of thing, all of that helps us to test it out. So there's absolute freedom that however you can connect in with the traffic system to move things. That's definitely parts of it that we want to test out and make sure things are flowing. So why don't we jump right into that then, an example of how messages move. So this very confusing chart on its surface is generally how traffic nets are structured. So let me see if I can get out the laser pointer here. We generally try to focus on bringing traffic in and having it head back out at the local level. So as close to the local level in the structure as we can get. So for here in Dallas, Fort Worth, there's a traffic net that happens twice a day on 2 meters, two different repeaters, and it serves the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex area. So for folks that are in DFW, this is commonly where they're in it. They're hooking in with the traffic system. That's how I connect in. Then as we try to get that moved out of the area and beyond, then it'll make its way up to regional nets and potentially area nets. And so when you think area, think eastern, central, and western US, and then we can jump across that. So if I had something going to Massachusetts, right, it would potentially, right, there's lots of different routing options, make its way up to a regional or area net and jump across from this area to the eastern area and then work its way back down to, I'll just say Boston, just for example, to potentially a local traffic net in Boston where a ham there would receive it and then make the final delivery. And that's generally done by phone call. Vast majority of traffic is delivered by phone. There is an option for email. It's one of those fun debatable items, and I'll dive into that when we get to that part of the radiogram, or we could be here a while. But that's how we generally try to do this when we're moving things. Let me give you a little bit better example that I think will help show this. Let's say I want to send a radiogram to a family member in Michigan, and this is something I actually did, and this is how the traffic flowed. I bring it to my local traffic net and I list it, which is a fancy way of saying, hello, net control, I have one piece of traffic headed to Michigan. And then the net control station will figure out, based on who else has checked in, how they can start moving it that way. And I'll go into how that works from the net control side later. But that net control station connects me with another traffic handler that's able to move it along towards Michigan, and I relay it. That station then relayed it to Indiana, and they did this over the digital traffic net, DTN. And there is a station there that has set up a hub where you can relay your traffic to and have it standing by for stations to come in and ask, is there any traffic headed to my area? And if there is, I'll go ahead and take it to continue it on its way. And that's what happened next. A station in Michigan connected into that hub, saw the traffic headed to their area, and then said, okay, go ahead and relay that to me, and I will take it from there. That station happened to be 5 miles away from my family members, so that station went ahead and picked up the phone and made the phone call for final delivery. So whether it's digital or if it's voice or CW, it works the same way. It continues along its way as best as we can based on HF conditions or whatever. HF bands are real fun, right? To keep it moving towards its destination, and then once it gets to that area, we again try for a local net. But my family's out in middle of nowhere, Michigan, so there's no local net there. A ham that was close by took that and then did the final delivery there. So, any questions on kind of that side of things? Again, feel free to throw them in the chat. I'm not looking for folks to become experts on the traffic nets and the structure and that type of thing, but I just want to demystify what happens once you inject something into the system. So, thinking about the skills that you build while participating. If there's one thing that comes up often with new traffic handlers is how fast they talk. I know that the rate of how fast I speak is a function of how much fuel I've had, but we really want to make sure folks are speaking slowly and clearly. And a good way to phrase that is slow is fast, fast is slow. If I go too fast, right? Like let's say I've got this radiogram and I'm gonna okay, you get ready to write it down. You got your pen and paper, and here it goes. I need 6 cots and 5 cases of water and 4 gallons of diesel, right? At what point did you lose me, right? And now you have to come back and say, okay, I need you to tell me parts of that again. And what was this word? And what was that word? And so now you've burned more time trying to get all the little, what was that? And I missed this, and where did it? And you told me you had 10 words, and I only got 8. So let's figure. If I say it slowly, so that you can, so that you can write it down, and then I only have to do it once. And so that winds up going faster in the long run. And in the meantime, while you're trying to work out, because if you went too fast, you're burning more time, there's other traffic that's waiting while you're trying to get yours moved. So whatever feels slow to you, go slower than that. It should be uncomfortably slow. Speak it clearly. So sometimes it can help to enunciate things. So you might have, drag the word out, enunciate. And again, it can feel a little awkward, but kind of dragging it out a little bit just helps it get through the noise or the static or things through to the other end. And a good way that you can frame this as you're doing this whole thing is that you're not reading the message to the other station, you're sending it to the other station. We want this thing to get to its destination like a Xerox copy of what it started with, word for word and letter for letter. So when you relay it from you to the next station, it should be identical. And then as it moves along, it should stay identical, right? This is not the time for the telephone game where I need 6 cots turns into, I need 2 dozen blankets or, something like that, right? We need the thing to get there word for word and letter for letter. So going slowly, speaking clearly helps ensure that the message doesn't change while in transit. This also helps you build your net participation skills. So if you're on a traffic net, and this happens here in Dallas, probably happens in your area, where the net control station will give certain instructions, like please check in with your call sign phonetically only. And then what do you get? Oh, this is K8AMH, and my name's Aaron, and I'm in North Dallas, right? And it's like, no, that's not what they wanted. They just wanted your call sign phonetically only. It's even more fun on Skywarn nets, for those of you that are on Skywarn, where it says, okay, the minimum reporting criteria is half-inch hail or suspicious cloud rotations. And then you get all right, I'm at Beltline and blah, and the tornado sirens are going off, and I just want to let you know. It's like so this helps you to kind of start listening for those cues from the net control station of what exactly are they asking for. It also helps you get used to what happens if there's a double or those types of fun things when you get on nets. ITU phonetics, they are very much the gold standard. So Alpha, Bravo, Charlie, Delta, Echo, this will help you really build up using those ITU phonetics. Now, if you're on a traffic net, especially like the local ones, and you're starting out and you come in with a dog or a cat or something, no, it's not the end of the world, but we really need you to build up the ITU proficiency. And if you start getting in on HF nets, and you're jumping things across regions, you bet those are the standards. And so as you get more proficient with traffic handling, the ITU phonetics are a very key part of that, and this gives you a lot of practice with that. This also gives you some practice with Prosigns or ProWords, depending on whether you're, CW, it's Prosigns, and if it's voice, it's ProWords. But in any case, I mean the same thing by that. So say again, or can you repeat your traffic, or I roger your traffic, or those types of things. And you'll find that in other areas of radio communications, it's the same thing. So whether you're listening to air traffic controllers, or if you've been handed one of those nice multi-$1,000 Motorola's that have you talking with your public dispatchers. It's the same things. Say again your traffic, you got cut off. Those types of things. And we'll go over some of those pro words in a bit. And then last, becoming comfortable with being concise. Again, thinking back to Skywarn nets, right? If you've got half-inch hail, that is not the time to go into a story and say, well, I'm outside my house and the hail just stopped. So I went outside and I grabbed one and I grabbed a ruler and it says it's a half-inch. So I've got half-inch hail, right? The message is, I'm at XYZ location and there's half-inch hail, right? On the radiograms, there are 25 blanks or spaces or groups, or however you want to phrase it from the technical terms. There are 25 spaces for you to get your message across. And so if you can say it in 5 words instead of 10 without introducing any confusion, say it in the 5, that type of thing. So by getting that practice of, well, how can I make this smaller but still get my point across clearly, it helps you in the long run if you're in an incident and you got to relay some piece of emergency that, okay, I'm going to skip the story and just let me get to the, I'm at this intersection and you've got three vehicle collision and this number of people impacted. I'm going to need at least two medics and PD for traffic control, that type of thing. For those of you that have started diving into Incident Command System, ICS, your Emergency Operations Center will love you if you do. You probably are familiar with the 213s, the general message forms. And so one of the common questions that'll come up is, well, how do you move a 213 over the air? And well, the 213 isn't specifically designed for over-the-air relaying, but you can transfer the skills from moving radiograms to moving 213s or moving any other piece of information that you got to get moved across. And I love this quote that I borrowed from Washington State as part of their community preparedness for earthquakes and things. When the disaster begins, the time to prepare ends. And so that's a really, really good way of highlighting that. Sometimes folks will, if it's the earthquake or the flood or, well, then I'll go out and I'll go by there is no more preparing after the incident happened. Now you're taking action. You're reacting. You're in it. And so all of that preparation time just died because now you're in the scenario and you've got to deal with what you got in front of you. So by getting the traffic handling skills now, it prepares you for when the hurricane goes by or the earthquake happens or those types of things. And if you're at the EOC and someone's saying, I need help with someone running the radio, and your emergency coordinator from Aries has got two choices, someone that's handled a bunch of NTS traffic and someone that's never touched any traffic in their lives, well, which one are they going to pick, right? I'll take the one that's got the experience. So this helps you build up those skills, not only for traffic handling, but outside of that. Mistakes. So this is another fun one that comes up in I want to get started, but I'm afraid I'm going to make a mistake. So let's just frame it this way. Smart mistakes are okay. Again, we're in the preparing stage, so we're here to learn and build our skill set and that type of thing, right? We don't want to do that during the incident, right? That's not the time to learn how to do this, right? That's the time to do this. If you make a mistake, and you made the mistake, acknowledge it, correct it, and keep rolling. I still make mistakes, and I joke, and I've mentioned it on the Learning Network and all that. I'm putting the amateur in amateur radio today. I just, oops, and we all move on, and, life goes on. If you make a mistake and don't know, and someone calls you out on it, ideally in a nice way, it's to help you build those skills and to get that muscle memory built around good operating practices. So take the feedback positively and use that to help learn and grow. I see the question in the chat. I'll jump in on that in a second. And so if there's one thing I can have you walk away from this talk, whether it's for traffic handling or jumping in for Aries, or it's just fear is an amazing blocker of things. If we get on the air, we feel like we're going to sound dumb. The other hams are going to think I'm dumb. And, we're all on various points in our traffic handling journeys, in our ham operating journeys, right? We all started the same way. We got our ticket and we got our radio and we all panicked for about a month before we pushed the talk button. And then we briefly, hi, I'm here, bye. We all start by not knowing, and the way that we build and learn that skill set is by jumping in and trying, making mistakes, make smart mistakes, and learn and grow from those along the way, and that's how we get better. So if anything, if you're going to jump in on a traffic net and you're like, well, there are a bunch of professionals and I'm just starting out, we all started out. So please feel free to jump in and participate and learn and grow and make those mistakes that I still continually do. All right, before we go into the radiogram format, if any other questions on that, on the traffic system structures or different things like that, or skill sets or things, this is a good time for those questions. Because up next is the deep dive into the radiogram format. And so for those that were at the Learning Network, we're going to go further than we did there. Can I recommend the sender to convert the 213 to a radiogram? unfortunately will not flow over very well. The 213s in the message box are kind of a wide blank because they're built for general communication, so general message form. So that general message could be a map, it could be a list of supplies that are needed, those types of things. And so what some ARRL sections have done is they've taken the 213 and they've added some of the radiogram characteristics to the top. So like a check, like how many words are in the message, and I'll cover that in the radiogram dive, right? So they've adapted the 213 in a way to help it flow over the air more effectively. Now the fun part with that is that's what that section did, and that I know the Alaska section has done that work because they're the one that sent me the example. Um, but there's no national gold standard, everybody do this, type of thing. And so at the moment, which is never fun during an incident, right, is it's kind of up to everybody to how they're going to do it. And, it's one of those you're going to I think we're going to learn the hard way because we haven't standardized it yet. So at some point, there's going to be something that happens, and you're going to get where we need to move these 213s over the air, and that's when you're going to get the okay, we made it work, but how can we figure out how to do this better, and then we'll do the investment, right? It's for some reason that's just how we do some of this, but that's the status of 213s and over-the-air relaying. It was not built for amateur radio relaying. It was built for general message flow. And again, sadly, it doesn't easily flow into radiograms, but there are some sections that have tried to adapt things. So another question: are there VHF traffic nets? Very yes. And I'll give you a resource to look up traffic nets in your area. I will admit that it's the ARRL net database tool. It can be a little interesting to use, but it can give you information on traffic nets, whether they're local or section or that type of thing. And VHF, UHF, HF, digital, Morse code, it's across the gamut. Again, here in Dallas Fort Worth, the traffic nets that happen here on the local level are on 2-meter repeaters. So they're just FM based nets, and we have stations that check in that can take the traffic out of the local area. And again, I'll cover that in the net part. But that's how I hook into the traffic system right now. All my HF gear is in storage because we're building a house, and it'll only take 6 months, and so I don't need to bring any of it with me. And yeah, sure, a year later, well, okay. So yeah, there are lots of different ways to get in on traffic nets, that type of thing. So and a comment from Max that there are VHF nets in southern Arizona. Yeah, there are lots of different ways to get connected into the traffic system. So, all right, if other questions, again, feel free to throw them in the chat. We'll keep moving here and dive into the radiogram format. And so, as I just kind of alluded with the 213s and how do we do that over the air, the radiograms are built very much as a standardized format for relaying traffic over the air. We're all following the same thing. Even internationally. So Peter DL4FN is using this radiogram format. I've exchanged traffic with a station in Great Britain, and it's all the same thing. We're all using the same thing. So whether I drive to Michigan and I want to check in and things, we're all using the same thing. It's also traceable, and that's something else that's not on the 213s that you can borrow from a radiogram and put on there. I will show you on the radiogram where you can do this, but we can track that traffic's movement through the system to research what happened if we really need to. And so sometimes it's just all right, I got it and I put it on my desk in the pile and it wound up in the pile, right? It's just sometimes it's just innocent, I forgot about it types of things. But we do have that ability to start tracing things if we need to. And part of that is driven by keeping a good log of the traffic that you are handling at your station. What did you receive from others? What did you send to others? Whether you got it from someone else or it's your own traffic that you're introduced. So just a simple log on this date and time, I sent radiogram number blah that was from this station on to that one. Can help in trying to go back and dig on things. So here's the form. Again, if you've printed it out from either of the handouts that I had, it will they'll all look like this. If you've bought the pad from ARRL and you've got the green pad of radiograms, they'll all have the same information. So again, standardized format. All right, there's some animation in here, and sometimes the internet plays nice and it flows nice, and sometimes it's rough, but it doesn't impact. But it looks really nice on my screen, but it might look really awful on your end. But here we go. So we'll break the radiogram into parts. The hardest part is the header. We're going to spend a good amount of time there, and then after that it gets easier. So let's just dive right into this fun part, the header. Now, at the Learning Network session, I just kind of gave some generals. Here we're going to dive in on each one of these boxes. So here comes the new stuff. The first item is the radiogram number. This number is assigned by the station that is first creating the radiogram. They're filling out the blank radiogram from nothing for the first time. And it is a way for that originating station to track their radiograms. There's no standardized way to do this. It's kind of up to you. I took the route of my first radiogram was number 1, my second radiogram was number 2, my third one was 3, and so on. Some stations take some different approaches. They'll, for example, go by the month, and so if it's like we're in August, and let's say it's my first radiogram in August, then that would be 801. And then my second one in August would be 802. And it just kind of depends on how you want to do that. And sometimes I get the traffic, this is message number, 10456. It's like, really 10,000, but it's up to them how they want to track things. You can also reset it if you feel like it. At some point when mine gets really high, I'll go back to 1 or maybe 200 or something like that. Again, this is all for tracking on your end. And if we get a year from now and we're probably not going to be looking back at that one at that point, because if it's a year-old piece of traffic, then we probably got a new set of problems on our plate at that point in time. So wouldn't worry about well, I used number 1 last year, so what happens this year? I don't think we're going to go back that far in time. So based on the number, the station of origin, and then the state, you can kind of piece it together, type of thing. The precedence goes back to what I talked about earlier with just what's the urgency of this thing: emergency, priority, welfare, or routine. Commonly, we'll just write the abbreviations for priority, welfare, or routine. We'll still say it on the air. So this is routine. We won't say R. We won't say Romeo. We'll still say routine. But to save time on the handwriting, we'll just put an R. Emergency is always spelled out. Always, always, always. It is the most important traffic we get. And so emergency very much written out to call out the significance of that traffic. Again, front of the line, all that, spell it out. So, all right, I'm going to keep rolling. Next is handling instructions, HX. This provides information on how to manage that traffic as it's flowing through the system, and also about delivery. This is in your handouts, but I've got the chart here. But if you want to take notes or things, again, it's in the handouts. Don't ask me what page it's on, because I don't have a copy printed out, but it's in there. So the most common one that we're gonna see is Hotel X-Ray Golf, this last one, which generally says, please don't spend any money trying to deliver this message. If you are going to wind up spending some money, never mind. Go ahead and you don't have to deliver it, but please let me know. And so we'll see this one very commonly in traffic. Another one we'll generally see is Hotel X-Ray Charlie, report and date, time of delivery. So like if I get a piece of traffic from someone else and they have HXC in their handling instructions, and I deliver it at this date and time, then I would send a piece of traffic back to that station saying, I delivered your message at this date and time. It's just kind of a delivery confirmation type of thing. The one that we despise is Hotel X-Ray Delta. This is a tracer, and I want to trace every move that this traffic makes as it's moving through the traffic system. So every time the traffic moves, two things happen. The first is the station that relayed it along has to send a piece of traffic back to that originator saying, okay, I relayed it to this station at this date and time. The station that got it also has to send something saying, at this date and time, I got it from this station. Then when that station moves it along to the next one, two more pieces of traffic. At this date and time, I relayed it to this station. At this date and time, I got it from. So every time the message hops, two pieces of traffic pop out. And it generates a lot of traffic. And so you can bet that when a station during field day labeled all their traffic Hotel X-Ray Delta for their 10 radiograms to get their points, that there was some feedback back to that station about why are you tracing all of these. The only time that I would really do this is if I had some, really, really urgent, like an emergency piece of traffic, and I have to know that it is flowing. And so I need those status updates. I need to know those points where it's moving so I know it's still making progress. Then I would introduce it. Or if I have a good long period of traffic heading, let's say from Dallas to the Northwest, and it never seems to make it through there, then I might use this as a way to, all right, I want to follow that on its journey. So I could still ask each hop, well, could you tell me type of thing, but this would be a little more effective just to say, well, tell me how it's flowing as it goes, and then I can identify that pinch point and see if I can come up with a way to reach out to that section and how can we make it better and that type of thing. So please don't use Delta unless it's really important. Did you get that key piece of information? Okay, great. Let's keep going. Station of origin. So this one is the amateur radio operator that is filling out the radiogram for the first time. And so if you are filling out a radiogram to send for yourself, then this is you. If you are filling out the radiogram on behalf of someone else that says, hey, I want to send this message through the traffic system, you're the one that's filling out the radiogram for the very first time, so that's still you. Because you can have traffic come from from a friend or family member that doesn't have an amateur radio license. We call that third-party traffic. And you can send those internationally as long as you follow the third-party agreement rules for third-party traffic. And so the common time that this comes up is if I deliver a message to somebody and they want to send something back, then they'll tell me what they want to say and I fill it in. And I'm still the station of origin because I'm the one that filled it out for the first time. And so this doesn't change while the message is in transit, by the way. So the number, the precedence, and all of that stays the same as it moves. All of this I'm talking about is my initial, I'm creating it for the first time type of thing. The check is just a count of how many words there are, or groups, sometimes they're called groups, that are in the text. And this is a way of trying to make sure that that new words aren't introduced or that things fall off, that type of thing, right? I told you there are 10 words in there, and then when you got done writing it down, you have 11. Well, let's figure out where the extra thing happened, and maybe this was written as one word on my end, but you wrote it as two words on your end, like voicemail. Is it one word or is it two, right? And so we have this there to help us try to make sure it's flowing right. And then there are some shorthands we can use, and I'll dive into those later. If we do use one or more shorthands, they're called ARRL shorthands. We'll put ARRL before the check. So if it's 9, then it'll become ARRL 9er. In the check. It's kind of a flag to say we're using some shorthands in this message. Question in the chat about station of origin. This is the message's creator, not the first message handler. So the station of origin is the first ham that's filling it out. So let's say I'm filling out because I want to send it to someone else, my own message. Then I'm the station of origin. If a friend of mine wants to send something and they don't have a license, Or maybe they have a license and they just have no idea how radiograms work and they're asking me to do it. Then I'm the one filling it out for the first time, so I'm the station of origin. And another way to look at that is if on the other end I have any questions, who do I need to ask? Who brought this traffic to the system so that I can send them a question, or I can tell them I delivered it, or I can tell them I couldn't deliver it. Then the message goes back to this station, and then that station will follow up or whatever they need to do type of thing. Um, I'll throw you a curveball with the place of origin coming up next because we got to have a curveball in here, right? On HX, so I'll go back to the chart just so we have this. On the HX section, does mail mean postal mail or email? Generally, for golf, delivery by mail means U.S. mail. We do not ask hams to spend any money on delivering traffic. I personally choose that if I get a piece of traffic that I can't deliver because, let's say, the phone number is bad, then I will put it in the mail to that station. And I have, of course, an explanation of, hi, I'm a traffic handler, and you got this message, and, give some details, so it's not just some random radiogram form that shows up with no explanation. But yeah, we're talking about, having to spend the postage or the money for the envelope or the money for postcards or, that type of thing. We're not looking for folks to spend their personal funds on things. And then on HX Golf, what does service mean in the service originating station? That is a fancy way of saying, please let the station of origin know some details about that delivery or non-delivery. So if I send a message saying, like, let's say it's Hotel X-Ray Charlie, and I delivered it today at well, let's do right now, 2:40 p.m. So that's 14:40, which is 19:30 Universal Time, right? Then I would send a message back to that station saying I delivered it on August 15 at, what did I just say, 19:40 Universal Time. It's been several seconds, I forgot. That is what we would call a service message. So we're servicing that station back with a detail about how their traffic flowed or whether it got delivered or not. So we call those service messages. And I'll mention that on traffic nets. Like, do you really need to move that today? And I go, well, it's a service message, so I'll bring it tomorrow. I'll bring it tomorrow. I don't have to move it tonight. But and that was because we didn't have any way to move it. So they're like, well, do you need us to really move it and figure it out? And I'm like, no, it's a service message. I'll bring it to the next net. And then we all know what we're talking about. It's delivery confirmations. So, okay, those are great questions. I'm going to keep rolling. If other questions, throw them in. And we're at the check. And so here's the curveball, the place of origin. This is the location of the person who authored the message. And so if this is you, and let's say this is me, and I am in Dallas, Texas, then the Dallas TX goes here. If you are taking a message on behalf of someone else, so like you did that phone delivery and now they want to send something back, the place of origin is where they are at. So I'm here in Dallas and I deliver something to someone in Denton, then the station of origin for that going back, the station of origin is me, Kilo 8 Alpha Mike Hotel. The place of origin is Denton, because that's where the person that's signing at the bottom is located. So when I think of place of origin, it's the location of whoever is signing the message at the bottom. The station of origin is the first ham that's filling in the radiogram to get it into the system. If you, like, let's say I'm in Dallas and they're in Denton and I get it and I put Dallas or whatever, the traffic system will not explode or, anything awful like that. It will move and we'll fine. Nobody will know, or, the traffic police will not drive over and take away your radio or anything like that. We will move on. It will be okay, and, that type of thing. But the place of origin is the location of the person that's authored the message. Time filed. This is optional, and I think I didn't mention it. The handling instructions are also optional. If you don't have any handling instructions, like if none of those apply, then you just don't put anything. Time filed is also an optional that we generally don't use unless it's emergency welfare priority, or if it's the Hotel X-Ray Bravo instruction, which is the, if you haven't delivered it within so many hours, then forget it. And it's And that could be like, I need the diesel fuel in 3 hours. Well, after 3 hours, if you haven't got the request in, well, then the request is kind of pointless at that point because they're out. And now they're going to have a new message saying, I have no fuel. But we need to know how many hours have gone by. So for those types of things, we would fill in the time filed. Universal time is the time zone. It's not a zone, it's a standard. It's the time standard, there we go, for traffic handling. So if you put a time and you do not indicate a time zone, we will assume universal coordinated, UTC. If it is a time zone, like Central Daylight Time or Eastern Standard Time, then very much please put the time zone. If you put Zulu, that's fine too. That's just kind of double checking that we know you are generally meaning UTC. But if you do include it, if you do go by local time zone, very much indicate it. And 24-hour time is very much formatted, very much preferred for the format on that. That's the universal language for traffic. If you're going to do AM or PM, then you can do that. Just make sure you include the AM or PM, but probably at some point someone will convert it. But again, 24-hour time format, ideally UTC. The date, again, follows UTC, so that can be fun. First 3 letters of the month followed by the date. So Jan 1/5 or March 3, August 1/5. We don't, again, bother with the year because if it's a year old, then forget it. And again, we follow UTC on that. So how would I say this? Here's an example. How would I say this on the air? Now, I like to say there are net personalities. Someday, if you're really bored, there's a 480-page NTS methods and practices guide that talks about virtually every facet of traffic handling. That if you wanted to dig on something, it's probably in there. But it is huge and can be very, very shocking to folks that are starting out. So. About once a month, I find myself going in there to answer someone's question. It does exist. But you'll find that each local net or things, they'll have little personalities to them that, well, we kind of do it this way on this net. We kind of do it that way on that net. So listen to nets before you participate in them. Get a feel for how they operate, that type of thing, whether it's a traffic net or a Skyward net or whatever. If you're learning about a net for the first time, listen to it. Here's how I would say this on a local net here in Dallas. Please copy number 312, routine, Hotel X-ray Golf, Kilo 8, Alpha Mike Hotel, 12, Dallas, Texas, 2145, January 15. Now, I'm going to go a little bit faster than I normally would do on the air because I want to keep time in mind. But notice how, like, numbers, I give each number individually. I don't say number 312. It's number 312. The check was 12, that type of thing. And I also don't need to say the name of each component. Like I don't need to say number 312, Precedence routine, Hotel X-ray Golf, station origin. Okay, we're all using the same template. So we just scream right across the top and we know what's going on. And I did mention that handling instructions in the time are optional. So what happens if they're not there? Well, I just don't mention them. Please copy number 312, routine, Kilo 8, Alpha Mike Hotel, 12, Dallas, Texas, January 15. I don't need to say the time is blank or no handling instruction, right? If I don't mention it, we know that there is none. And so it's just one of those things that flows through time as you build that muscle memory. We know the header, and we know that if nothing's mentioned, then we know that there isn't anything there. Okay, that was the header. That was the hard part. Gets a little easier from here. So any questions on that? I'll take some fuel for a second. It's warm, so it's bearable. And we'll jump into the addressee part next. This is effectively the destination. It's like what you would imagine on an envelope. First, last name, and then call sign if they have one. Again, they don't have to have one, but first, last name, call sign, their address, city, state, zip, and then if you can, very much please, a phone number. I would, if I had to throw a number at it, that over 99% of radiograms are delivered by phone. We very much want a phone number. Um, it also reflects what's going to happen generally in an incident. We're going to want to make those deliveries by phone, right? Welfare message, your family member's okay. Um, you know, if you throw it in an email, then it kind of goes into the ether, and we don't know whether they got it or not. Whereas if I get on the phone with that person and I say, I've got a message from your loved one in XYZ, and they want you to know they're okay, right? Then I know that I've gotten that to them. And so phone is very much the way to go. And no, we don't want you driving to their home or I don't want to go down that path of, the traffic handler gets injured while delivering radiogram. I'm not looking for anything like that. So very much phone delivery is the way we go on these. But again, there's email. So if you have absolutely no phone number, and if it's like 1 out of 100 of your pieces of traffic type of thing, then all right, go for it. But you need to write it out. So like jane.doe at example.com would be written as Jane dot D-O-T, doe, at sign or at, both are acceptable there, example dot com. They're written out as words. Those symbols are written out as words because, how do you say a symbol? So we put it as a word. It's something that we can spell. So if it's noisy conditions, I can spell at sign. I can spell dot, those types of things. So let's say I want to send something to Jane Doe, and there's the made up information I've got there. So I would say this on the air, and there it is on the right, filled in the radiogram. I would say this, again, going faster for time. Going to Jane Doe, I spelled Delta Oscar Echo, amateur call Alpha Romeo 1 Tango, address figures 123, mixed group 85 Tango Hotel, street, direction southeast, Sumtown, Wisconsin, zip figures 00121, phone figures 330 555 4424. Break. So this introduces us to some pro words, and there's a list of these in the handout. We use pro words or Prosigns in CW. They're Prosigns. We use some of these when giving address information. So for example, I spell, this one's used throughout, indicates you're about to spell something you just said. If you're going to spell something, I wouldn't wait too long to indicate that you're about to spell it, because if I say doe and then I wait a while, chances are you've tried writing something and then I spell, well then, okay. So, Jane Doe, I spell, Delta Oscar Echo, right? To get that flow. It's good practice to spell last names in general. First names might be good to do too, if it makes sense. Like John, is it Jon? Is it John? Those types of things. Amateur call means you're about to give a amateur call sign. Figures, whether that's address figures or phone zip figures, you're about to give a set of numbers. Mixed group, a mix of letters or numbers. Direction, and that's really generally only used in addresses. So southwest, northeast. Even though it was still abbreviated, I would say, southwest. And then break. This is usually a fun one. I know here in the Metroplex, in our net preambles, it's pretty much standard for them to say, any station with emergency or priority traffic may enter the net at any time by using the pro words break, break, followed by their call sign. And so usually when people hear break, they think emergency. But in this case, break means I'm going to pause now. And so you let up, phone figure to break, and then you let up, and you wait to see if the other station needs you to repeat anything. I need you to say again the phone number, or those types of things. So break in this case is not indicating I need to break into the conversation or break with emergency traffic or anything like that. It means you're pausing in the relaying to give the other station a window. The question, are the pro words always used in the addressee area all the time? I've been trained according to the manual that I talked so nice about, that it's not necessary unless there's something that is not understandable. This goes back to what I call the personality of the traffic net. Um, Here on the local traffic net, we actually let up after the header before the address. We don't say break, but we still let up. That's not something that's in the standards and best practices guide, but it's something that is done at this local net level. Um, 7290 traffic net. That's an independent traffic net that handles Texas and beyond, but we all still exchange the same radiogram. So whether it's Radio Relay International or an independent net or National Traffic System net, we're all using the same thing. They go through the header a little bit differently too, and so it just goes back to the net personalities of how things flow, and back to the listen to understand how they're doing it type of thing. If I went into the 7290 traffic net and I did it exactly how I do it here in Dallas, they might look at me and go, "Why'd you do all that?" But they'll still get it. They'll know what I'm doing because we're all still following the same protocols. But I'd probably get a follow-up afterwards saying, "Well, that's not how we do it on this one." And I would say, "Oh, yeah, I'm the section traffic manager. You're telling me how to..." No, I wouldn't do that. All right, well, keep going. Okay, op notes. So this is one of two places where we can indicate some additional information. In this one, op notes or operator notes, this would relate to handling or delivery. So for an example on here, I've got workday only. These can give hints or clues for things related to how to deliver that. So by putting workday only, for example, if I know it's going to someone's work phone number, well, if they're not going to, if it's the weekend, well, then don't bother. They're not going to be at the office. So you can include, generally don't see op notes in the address part. They pop up once in a while, but so I want you to know they're there. But this is one of the two places that op notes happen. The other one is later, and I'll give examples of that one because that one is a more common usage of op notes. So that's it for the address part. I'll keep flowing here just for time. If other questions, throw them in the chat. The next section is one you'll generally not use. This is the receiving station information. And you can think of this as a log of who filled in the radiogram at that spot. And I would only do this in two cases. The first is if I'm about to drop it in the mail. So I received the message and I'm going to put in the mail to them. How do they know how to get a hold of me to ask me any questions? Well, I'll put my name and address and my details that I want to share with them so that they can get a hold of me. The second would be if I'm in an incident or simulated emergency test and I'm in the relay chain, whether I'm at the middle or I'm at one of the ends, and we're turning all our paperwork in at the end. Well, who filled in this sheet of paper? I can't read that word, so who wrote this? I would fill this information in so that whoever's going back to replay the incident can find me and get a hold of me so I can answer any questions about the radiogram that I filled out and filed at the end of the incident. So hopefully that's clear. If any questions on that one, again, let me know. But that, I don't need to fill it out for my own records. I mean, I know my name, I know my address, and I know my phone number. So it's not like I'm going to pull up my set of traffic coming to me and go, "Oh, look, I took that." I know that. The text is the heart of the message. So 25 blanks. So we got 25 groups. I like to think of this as $5 a word. And so when you're thinking about putting your message together, did I really need to say that, or can I save a little bit of money type of thing? The longer the message, the more chance for it to get destructed in transit by the telephone game, and the more other traffic has to wait while your long traffic. If it takes 25 words, it takes 25 words. But if over the course of a week, if I'm listening to someone's routine traffic and they're all 23, 25, 24, well, I'm going to start asking questions of, you really can't simplify those types of things. So let's say I want to send, "Great seeing you yesterday, hope to get together again soon, 7-3. Well, punctuation, just like I talked about in the email, punctuation here is also written as words. Periods are either the letter X said as initial X-ray or the word X-ray. And then less commonly, you'll get a question mark, and that is written as the word query, Exclamation points are exclamation. Again, not too often, but once in a while you'll get query, how are you query, that type of thing. And in the check, I mentioned this later, in the check, these count as a word. So when you're figuring out the check, the initial X-ray goes in a box all by itself and counts in the check. So here's how this translates. Great seeing you yesterday. Oh, your faces are covering it up, so let me move you over. Great seeing you yesterday, initial X-ray. Hope to get together again soon. Figures 7-3. Now, I don't have an X-ray between soon and 73. Pretty good indication that the sentence ended at soon. So do I need to spend the $5 to put a period there? Probably not. So I just leave it out, and the station at the other end is going to understand what I did there. Now, if let's say I ended it with a date, right, on August 10, 7-3, well, then the X-ray can be helpful so that, there's clarity that that 73 is not part of a time or part of an address or part of something like that. So in that case, I'd spend the $5 type of thing. So again, these count as a word in the check. So when I go through this, and notice how they're in groups of 5 because that's how the form is. So 5, 10, 12, I would put 12, 1, 2 in the check for this message. So this one I would say on the air, great seeing you yesterday, initial X-ray. Hope to get together again soon. Figures 7-3. Break. And so that's our second break where we're pausing to let the other station come back with if they need anything. So in here we've got initial for initial or initials. Some stations say letter group. I say initials. It's just one of those, again, tomato, I guess, type of things. And then we had the break again. And other words, Prosigns you might hear. Say again. I need you to repeat something. Please say again. Word after seeing. The worst one, please say again all after yesterday. That's a good clue you were going a little fast, and so slow it down next time. We prefer affirmative or negative over yes or no. Is that correct? Affirmative. Be the same thing with public dispatchers. It's not yes or no. Are you on fire? Yes or no. No, it's affirmative or negative. And then correction. So if you make a mistake, the pro word for that you're about to correct something is correction. So great seeing you yesterday. Correction, initial X-ray. I say again, great seeing you yesterday, initial X-ray. And then you can flow from there. So that's it for the text. We'll jump into the signature, and that's right below the text section. And yeah, it's not labeled. Generally, if it's something from you, first name and a call sign, all that would go there. So for me, Aaron, Kilo 8 Alpha Mike Hotel. If it's from a third party or something like that, this would be their name, maybe a call sign if they have one, type of thing. 7290 TrafficNet sends out radiograms to folks that check in for the first time, and they sign it, the 7290 TrafficNet or something close to that. So it's not like it has to be a person's name. It's just the signature of whoever authored the message, type of thing. And so I would say this one is signed, and again, this goes back to net personalities that we say signed. Signed Aaron, Amateur Call, Kilo 8, Alpha Mike Hotel, end number 312, no more, how copy. So a couple more pro words. End means that's the end of the radiogram. End book would be for book traffic. I'll cover that in a second. No more, or maybe one more or two more, would indicate how many more radiograms I have left to relay to you. So like if I'm moving 2 to Michigan, and I'm done with the first one, I would say end number, whatever that is, one more, how copy. It means I have one more radiogram left yet to relay to you. How copy, effectively, all set, type of thing. And then, Roger, I Roger your 312, or good copy on your 312, or, something like that. Comment, and maybe sometime in the future, the signature field will be titled. Yeah, sure. Well, we'll have to, set up a committee to review whether we need a committee to put together the signature committee, whatever. This is the second spot for op notes, and this is where they're more common. This relates to replies or servicing. So it could say, for example, Aaron Amateur Call Kilo 8 Alpha Mike Hotel op note reply or service to KE5YTA. Effectively, what I'm saying with that is, I'm the one that sent the message, but if you have any replies, whether it's a reply from that station or a service message, don't send them to me, send them to me via or care of KE5YTA. This is helpful for like Peter's traffic, DL4FN, and I will show you some real world examples of where he uses that so that the replies can get routed back to him more efficiently than if he didn't have any instruction there. And that's it for the signature. So everything I've talked about so far, once it's introduced into the traffic system, never changes. Everything stays the same as it moves. And so that also means if you get a radiogram and there is a mistake, a grammatical error, that's how it was introduced, we're not fixing it. You're going to move it exactly as you got it. Sometimes you'll get where they put 2 initial x-rays or something like that, and that's how you got it. That's how you move it. You would not change any of it at all while it's in transit. Keep it exactly the same. Everything we've talked about through now, well, the receiving station info, don't look at that. But everything else stays the same while it's in transit. This is another radiogram form acceptable to use instead of the ARRL form. I received one from a local ham that is different. Some folks make up their own, and it's not like it has to say ARRL at the top or anything like that. Some make postcards and put them in there. The key thing is that we follow the same flow. So the header has got the same fields in the same order and the 2 and that type of thing. We want it all to be able to flow into the system. Because again, if it's flowing into the an independent traffic net or, that type of thing. All right, you've got it. Okay, you didn't send me anything awful, did you? I'm going to dangerously open this. Let's see what I got. I might have to do some. Yeah, so this is all the same thing. Number, precedence, handling instructions, origin, and date, time, to, the fields, the signature. Oh, this has got some. This has the shorthands on it. I'll explain those in a bit. Yeah, so this is perfectly fine. And I'll throw the kudos. This was designed by Dave N7YSS. Yeah, absolutely fine. It's not like it has to say ARRL or anything like that. It has all the components of it, so that's absolutely fine. Yep, perfect. Okay, let's rock and roll into the tracking part. So I mentioned that you can follow the flow of things. This is for you to record who you got it from and who you sent it along to. So let's say I got this piece of traffic from, or other way around. Let's say I sent it to Roger KA5YTA. Then I would track it in the sent as 2KA5YTA. I personally like to track which net I was at because we have 2 sessions here in Dallas, the early and late nets. So I just put it for reference, DFW late, and then the date and the time, again, following UTC. So yes, I have a piece of software that runs that tells me the time in UTC so that I don't have to keep figuring it out. But yeah, I track everything by UTC. If I had gotten it from someone else, then in the received, I would put their station, call sign, the date and time, and then if I moved it along, then I would put the sent information. And that at the bottom becomes my tracking info that we can use to follow it through the system and track the flow of it type of thing. So from everything that we just talked about, here's how it comes together. Let me zoom in on it just to make this a little bit better. So the header filled out across the top, its destination, the message, the signature, and then my tracking information of who I sent it to. So I'll leave this here for a second. If any questions on this, I'll go over a couple other components. We'll do some quick hands-on, then I'll do a quick net overview of how nets work, and then a final hands-on. I think we're going to run about maybe 10 to 15 over, it's looking like. But they're really great questions, so I'm glad you're bringing them, but I'll just give you a time check. I think we might burn a little bit more time. And let's not drink this and dip the microphone in there. That's good. This headset was expensive. How many attempts do you make before it's considered undeliverable? Okay, so let's say I received a piece of traffic and I'm going to do the phone delivery, and it just rings and rings and rings every time I call. At what point do I say, you know what, I couldn't deliver it, and I service the message back, message originator saying, unable to deliver, no answer, something like that. I try about 3 times, and that'll span 3 or 4 days. I'll try, maybe in the evening on the first day, and then maybe midday on the second day, and then the evening again the third day, just in case or something like that. But if I just can't get it, then at that point I make the personal judgment: do I put it in the mail, or if it's got a hotel X-ray golf instruction that says please do not spend any money, then I honor that. I will not put it in the mail because the other station asked me not to spend anything, and so I honor their request. I'm not gonna. Well, you told me don't spend anything, but I did. I won't do that. I'll honor what they've asked. Now, I did have one come in one time that the phone number was 800, and to which I said, "Oh, I can't wait to see where this goes." And yeah, it went to a car dealership that did not have anybody employed there by that person's name, and so at that point it became undeliverable, and I sent the message back immediately saying, undeliverable. Phone number is to car dealership, or type of thing. So it's one of those. Use your your judgment on that. All right. We'll keep rolling here. Again, other questions, feel free to throw them in. I talked about book traffic earlier. So let's say I have the same message going to several people. And I'm going to say, Merry Christmas or something like that to a bunch of family members. Oops, let me go back. I accidentally clicked. Then we call that book traffic, which is basically a way of saying, I have the same message going to multiple people. We can move this more efficiently. And between the different radiograms, they'll each have their own number and a destination. So one going to my parents would be number blah and the name, address, phone number. One going to my sister will be the next number going to name, address, and phone number. But the rest of the information stays the same. So the first time I relay it, and again, this is a net personality. Some nets have you read what we call the common parts first and then do the differings. At the local net here, I would read this whole radiogram through the first one, like I was moving any other radiogram. And then at the end, when I go to the next one, I would say, okay, the next one in the book is number 313, and it's going to John Smith, 123 Fake Street, phone figures, and number 313. I don't need to give the whole header. I don't need to give the message. I don't need to give the signature because it's all the same. And I indicate that when I say, okay, this is part of the book traffic, right? I've got a book of 2. Here's the first in the book, and here's the full thing. And then, okay, I roger the common parts ready for the second in the book. And then I only give those, the number and the address. And so we can move it a lot faster that way. During field day, folks will generally use book traffic, and it really helps because then we can move a lot in a short amount of time because we only have to read the radiogram all the way through once, and then for the rest of them, we just do the number, the address, the number, the address, and the number, the address. What if you do not know the address, but you have the phone? Yes, you can introduce that. If you can at least give a city, that helps us know where to send it. Like if I'm sending it to Jane Doe and they're in Detroit, Michigan, but I don't have an exact address, then I know I need to move it towards Detroit. Right? I gotta have that clue in there. So at a minimum, I would have a city state. So is it possible to move it with just a phone number? Yes, but if I have no idea where in the country it's going to go, right? I'm in Dallas, but all my phone numbers are from Seattle. So then they move it to Seattle. I'm not there. I'm here in Dallas. So yeah, we want to try and get it to its local area for that last mile delivery. If there's a date in the body of the message, is that considered one word or does it become 3? It would probably become 3. So if it was like, great seeing you on August 1st, and then August and 1st would be 2 words, or August 1, or on September 2nd, 2023, we will have a party, right? September 2nd, 2023 would all become separate groups or different words in there. Do you leave the net frequency to pass traffic? Maybe. So on the local nets, sometimes there are two repeaters that we generally use, one repeater for the early session, one for late. If we get jammed with a lot of traffic, then we will send people off to another repeater and say, okay, you go move it over there and then come back when you're done. It just kind of depends on how the net is running and that type of thing. So it's one of those, it depends. When calling someone to deliver a message, what's the first best thing to say to avoid people hanging up thinking it's a marketer? The way I approach it is, hi, my name's Aaron. I'm an amateur radio operator, and I have a message that's come for you through ham radio from whatever their name is. I'm hoping I have the right phone number, right? And then I let them, go from there. All right, and the next comment. This is an urgent message about your car insurance. All right, so that introduces a good fun part. Just like we don't do commercial stuffs over the air, we don't do commercial stuffs over the air. So this is not the place to say your driver's license is about to die. Send me $10 and I will fix it for you, or whatever. Right? We're not doing commercial, that type of thing. And same, I've had one in the past where like, well, what if the hospital was in need of money to pay for supplies? And it's like, you're in an incident. They're not going to be worried about when's the money coming. They're going to be worried about I need ventilators. I need, gurneys. I need masks. I need, they're not. I need $10,000. I don't. Great, I got $10,000, but I don't have my supplies. Right there, it's going to be very supply focused. So yeah, no commercial stuff on traffic. That's the same thing. Is there a protocol per se, like try 3 times by phone, then attempt via another method, then finally by mail? No, I would leave that up to you. So if you try 3 times by phone and it doesn't work, then you could just leave it at that. You could try looking online to see if you can find a better phone number. But generally, when I get them with the phone number, I have some confidence that the other person tried to give me a good phone number. Sometimes that's a little rough when you get the, welcome to the hobby, enjoy the fun and friendships you will make, and that phone number came from some, phone listing, paid service type of thing, and it turns out to be wrong. But if it was something kind of urgent, I might dig around or say, well, I know this ham's here, and I know someone else took their traffic and phoned it to them, so let me just email them real fast. Do you have the phone number handy for so and such? I got a piece of traffic for them. Then I just do that. But it's kind of up to you how much you want to roll it with. Can you translate if the other person is not a native speaker and the message is sent in English? So this is a fun one. Traffic's generally in English, and that's because like as it moves across the country, a lot of us are speaking English. And so if you get something that is in Spanish, it will add a layer of complexity in that I need the other station to speak Spanish. Now, could you move it if you needed to? Yes, I could spell every single word one at a time. Donde está la, then I can, donde I spell, or I could, English it, dundi I spell delta, but I can spell it to get it moved across. That will completely bust when you get into languages like Japanese, Chinese, Thai, where you can't convert it, or it's not in Roman characters type of thing. So if you were at, let's say, a shelter and you were going to get something, a piece of welfare traffic, and you could translate it to English at that point, I would definitely do that and throw it into the system in English. And this is also an excellent opportunity to put in the op note in the address part for delivery to say that recipient only speaks Spanish. And then when it gets into that local delivery area, then you can find a ham or someone that is able to translate and do the final delivery. So that'd be an excellent place to put an op note in the address part for delivery. Okay, I meant for the addressee at the end when I phone. Yeah, so in the op note, I'd put this in Spanish, and then and then I'd like if I got something like that, then I would work to make sure I find somebody that would be able to deliver that and act as an interpreter translator to be able to do that. Yeah, so same thing if it was coming out of like Houston and it was going to I don't know, Wisconsin, I don't know, and if it's the recipient there speaks Spanish, then I would put that in the op note that make sure that someone there can can deliver that effectively. Okay, I'm going to keep rolling because we're going over a little bit. So I talked about shorthands. Here's one here, ARRL 56, new amateur radio license. These are listed in your handout as well. These are a way to send common messages more efficiently. And again, when we use a shorthand, we put that in the check. So a check of 12 becomes ARRL 12 or Alpha Romeo Lima 12. Again, to indicate that we've used the shorthand. And when we deliver the message, give them the translation. Well, you got a message and it says ARRL 56, and what the hell does that mean? So tell them what it means. Some common ones that you'll see, ARRL 47 is kind of the delivery confirmation. So we have a way of sending those service messages using a shorthand to say I was able to deliver it. ARRL 50, greetings by amateur radio. ARRL 67 is I couldn't deliver it. ARRL 67, 123, and then I'll usually include the amateur call sign and the phone number in case the phone number got destructed in transit. Then they might send it again or something like that. Undeliverable because of phone number disconnected or wrong phone number or something like that. Please advise, you'll probably never hear back on it. But that's part of it there. So this one, ARRL 56, and then the blank becomes congratulations on your, and then for the blank, new amateur radio license, which appears after the 56 here, a most worthy and deserved achievement. And so we go up to the X-ray to fill in that blank. So this becomes congratulations on your new amateur radio license, a most worthy and deserved achievement. Welcome to the hobby. Enjoy the fun and friendships you will make. 73. We always spell them out. So Alpha Romeo Lima, 50 I spell Foxtrot India Foxtrot Tango Yankee, 6 I spell Sierra India X-ray. We spell them out to make sure that it's very clear they're part of the shorthand. Right, if I did the ARRL 40, ARRL 67, 123, right, if I did it with digits for 67 and then followed it with the digits from the radiogram number, you have the potential for mix-up. So for ARRLs, we always write out the word for the numbers. We use the words and we spell them. ARRL 50, I spell Foxtrot India, Foxtrot Tango Yankee. 6, I spell Sierra India X-ray. You can use more than one shorthand in a message too. It's not like, and it does not have to be at the very front. You can use it anywhere in it. So some other quick examples. And let me get the magnifying glass out. So here's a real piece of one. This one was from Peter. So ARRL 50, John, and congrats on new amateur radio license. So ARRL 50, greetings by amateur radio, John, and congrats on new amateur radio license. Here we've got that op note at the end. Op note, reply or service message to DL4FN via KE5YTA Richardson, Texas 75080. What this is saying is that if, let's say the recipient here wanted to send a reply back to Peter, thank you, or something like that, I would send it to Peter Dintelman, amateur call DL4FN, care of KE5YTA, Richardson, Texas. So in other words, the traffic routes to Dallas for delivery to Roger in Richardson, rather than being routed to Peter in Germany. And this is an efficiency thing because Roger handles a lot of Peter's traffic, especially what's coming into this area. And so if I had something going back, I said, well, I have a going to Peter DL4FN care of KE5YTA. And then I would get this to Roger to KE5YTA, and then he at that point would then carry it on forward to Peter. So that's where this op note is more commonly seen, is for things like this. All right, let me zoom out and I'll go to the next one and also take the question that's in the chat. In Precedence, can you use exercise if you're conducting an area exercise? I want to say yes to that. I know you can also do it in the message, which is, I would do that regardless. Exercise, need water at blah, exercise, right? I'd put that in the message. And then in the Precedence, I always forget offhand if it's exercise or test, but I think it's exercise, exercise routine or exercise priority, or, I think it's exercise, but I always forget if it's exercise or test. Shame on me. And same thing on this one. We've got the op note reply or service message via KE5YTA. Hello, Gary, congrats, and that type of thing. And this one I threw in the mail, so I filled in my information at the time in the received box, so that when the other station got it, they knew my information, type of thing. And then here's the information. I got this from KF5IOU at the DFW Early Net on March 13, 2353, coordinated universal time. So that's how I know how I got it. Okay. Well, think we've got maybe 10, 15 minutes. We're running long, but these are good questions. This is a good window to take a break if you need to stretch. Grab a cup of coffee. Hopefully it's hotter than what I got left here. Also, take some time to try putting a piece of traffic together to me. You can put whatever number you want. If it's your first one, you put one. But go ahead and try putting one together that's to me, my info is there with the message, hope to hear you on the band soon, 73. And then I'll show you how it should look. And if there's any questions, then we can go through that. In the meantime, too, if there's other questions for the chat, feel free to throw them in there. I know some folks might have to drop off. If you have to do that, that's okay. Again, I'll put the recording up on YouTube. I should have it there later this evening. And I will send a link out with the details on how to access that, along with a bunch of other follow-up links to find traffic nets and different things. So I'll have that all in email. So if you do have to drop off, completely understand. And again, appreciate you jumping in and spending your time. And again, if any questions, feel free to email me. Kilo 8 Alpha Mike Hotel at ARRL.net will get to my inbox. So I'll give you some more time here for filling it in type of thing. And again, this is about learning. So if there are mistakes, I welcome the questions and things, and let's, definitely, jump in and explain. Or if there's a, that's kind of fuzzy, what was that? Or, I don't quite understand this part, or definitely we'll jump in on that a little bit further. If we need a deeper dive on it, then we can hold that to the end. Some more lukewarm coffee, yay! Keep telling myself someday I'm just going to make a small pot in the thermal craft and then I can heat it up, but that day hasn't come yet. So, all right, we'll give you another minute here, and then we'll roll through. And if you don't have it quite filled out, excuse me, all the way in a minute. That's all right. We'll keep on rolling for time, but give a little bit more time for filling things in here. All right, well, I'll give you a little bit more time to wrap up type of thing. I'll acknowledge that this is very much the fire hose approach. Stand back. I'm going to tell you about radiograms. Ready? So if you're going through this and it's like, type of thing, um, you can catch the video on YouTube and kind of watch it again later. And at that point, you might find it's a little bit clearer that, I remember you talked about that. And yeah, because now instead of watching it from I've never seen this before, you're watching it from I kind of have an idea. I plan on doing this again next month. I keep kind of sort of jokingly saying, as long as you keep showing up, I'll keep holding these. So I'll have another session set up in September, and I'll work on getting that all online and all of that as well for folks to sign up for it type of thing. But again, if questions, email me and I'll give you a bunch of resources and that type of thing too. All right, we'll keep rolling here because for the few folks I do have video for, the look at the slide, look at the paper, look at the slide, look at the paper has stopped. So I think that means you're done. So we'll keep rolling. Let me get out the magnifying glass again. So you should hopefully have something that looks similar to this. So a number of some sort, routine, I hope, because that wasn't an emergency. Not no handling instruction necessarily. Station of origin would be you. A check of 9 or a niner. Your city and state. Today's date. My name, call sign, address, phone number. Hope to hear you on the band soon. And 7-3, and then your name and call sign at the end. So. Hopefully this aligns with what you have. If there are any questions, I got a thumbs up. That's good. That means I did a good job in explaining it. But if there are questions, I don't, again, it's a lot. So if you have questions, or why is that not ARRL again, or for the check or thing, go for it. I'll give you a few seconds here to feverishly type away, and then. We'll roll on to the next part here and kind of get things, wrapping up. I saw the chat thing blink, but the chat box isn't opening. There we go. Oh, just someone's is telling me thanks, and I gotta take off. Yep, thanks much, and we'll catch you later. All right, I will keep moving. So escape and forward. Okay, so traffic nets. This will go faster. So for those that haven't been on a traffic net, hey, guess what? There's an introduction that says, welcome to this net, and here's what it is. So for traffic net, welcome to the net, and here's some ideas how it's going to go. Then some check-ins happen, generally stations who have traffic and who don't have traffic. The folks that don't have traffic are important because they are potential relay stations that we can move traffic to for deliveries or things like that. So if you jump in on a traffic net, like here in Dallas, if you jump in on the traffic nets, and you have no traffic and you're kind of new, no, we're not going to throw you in the deep end and say, okay, great, please take these 2 pieces of traffic for your first net. We'll get you rolled in, and then when you're comfortable, okay, well, we're ready to have you take one. Want to give it a try, and then we'll walk you through it, and that type of thing. So checking in without traffic is still a good thing. And then after that, the relaying begins, where 2 stations will work together to hop the traffic across. Okay, all right, let me take this question in the chat real fast, and then we'll keep, when you send a typed version such as WinLink, should you use all caps? The WinLink template will put it in all caps, I believe, automatically, and I generally use all caps. That's generally a good practice, is all capital letters when doing. When I fill them out by hand, I do them with all caps too. We can dive into WinLink more later if you have questions. I want to get through the main content. So here's an example of how we might log a net, and by example, I mean, here's a log I put together while running a traffic net. I was the net control station, so I checked in first. I had no traffic. I was a liaison for Denton County ARRLs, and another trivia piece, Amateur Radio Emergency Service and NTS are sister programs in ARRL's public service offerings. So you can serve as a liaison between the traffic system and ARRLs. Some areas do that where if they don't have ARRLs but they have RACEs stood up, then we'll have liaisons with RACEs. And so I could dive in forever on that, but I will save that for afterwards if folks want to know more there. Then Calvin checked in Fort Worth. He had one going to Bowie, Texas. Then Don W9VE checked in, and he was a liaison for TEX, which is the Texas CW net, if I'm remembering right. So that tells me that if I have something that needs to move across Texas, because I know the range of this net, that if I have something going to an area outside of Dallas, I could have Don pick that up and then move it along further on the TEX net, the Texas CW net. Right, so this is how I start building my, how do I know how to route things as the net control. Up next was Roger K5YTA. He had a book of 5, so it's the same message going to 5 different destinations. 2 of them were in Dallas, 1 in Plano, 1 in Prosper, 1 in Melissa. Then John checked in KF5LU, a book of 3, and then a single, so not part of the book, completely different message. And then Corky checked in, KG5NNA, with a net report. So we gathered data about traffic flow and how many and different things. And hey, surprise, when you turn in those reports, they're done on a radiogram and move over the traffic system. So when I get my monthlies from net managers, they come in as pieces of traffic. And so we move those reports over the traffic nets. And so then based on this, as a net control station, you figure out who to put together and connect to make things move. And sometimes you don't know. And then I'll just say, I got any volunteers to take the one to Bowie, or something like that. But we'll work to move things around. And then effectively, the flow is the net control station will say, okay, station 1 call station 2 and take the one message to Bowie or wherever. And they'll say, okay, whoever you were, this is K at AMH, I'm ready to copy. And then the other station, KMH, whoever I am, thank you much. Please copy number 123 routine, to Jane Doe, 123 Fake Street, Bowie, Texas, 12345, phone 123456790, break. And then that station would either, please say again the phone number, that type of thing. And then when they're ready for them to continue, then they'd say go, or go ahead, or go text, something like that. Then they would relay the text section, and then, nice seeing you, or break, right? And then that's another opportunity for, I need you to say again, or please spell Janet, or, that type of thing. And then when they're ready for the signature, then they would say go ahead, go signature, at which point signed somebody, end number, whatever it was, and no more how copy. And I, Roger, the number. Thank you so much for the traffic, K8AMH, and the other, thank you for taking it, ABC2E, back to net or something like that. So that's how the exchange would work on the net. And so to move this one that we put together earlier, again, let me get the magnifying glass. I would, please copy my number 312, and again, going fast. Please copy my number 312 routine, Kilo 8 Alpha Mike Hotel, 12 Dallas, Texas. I didn't update this one, but it should be August 15. To Jane Doe, amateur call Alpha Romeo 1 Tango, address figures 123, mixed group 85 Tango Hotel, street, direction, southeast, Sumtown, Wisconsin, zip figures 00121. Phone figures 330-555-4424. Break. And then at this point, go ahead, or I need you to say again, or that type of thing. Great seeing you yesterday, initial x-ray. Hope to get together again soon, figures 73. Break. And then again, please say again after yesterday, or whatever. Go. Signed Aaron, amateur call, Kilo 8 Alpha Mike Hotel, end number 312, no more, how copy? Hi, Roger, your 312, thanks for the traffic. Thanks for taking it, K8MH, and then we call it good. So if any questions on how that flowed, go ahead and throw them in the chat. I'll take these real fast. How long do you keep your traffic logs and radiograms after delivery? I'd hang on to them for about 1 or 2 months. After that, you probably don't need to hang on to them. Some folks hang on to them forever. I store mine digitally now. I started by filling them out by hand, and I think that's a really, really useful way to learn. By taking the pen and the paper and physically, I find that I learn and retain better that way versus if I just type it out. The other side of that is if I'm thrown into an incident, and computers are a luxury, that type of thing. What am I going to have? I'll probably have a pen and a blank piece of paper with nothing on it. And so, how am I going to, and once you start getting this down, it just becomes clockwork. I just take a blank piece of paper and I start writing it down as you relay it to me. But if I haven't done that before, then when I'm thrown in it, I'm going to have to do it all from how did I type that in and how does that, again, not the time to be learning that. So if you go to electronic, then yeah, you can keep them a long time because storage is cheap. But if you keep paper logs or things, 1 or 2 months is generally a good practice there. But like for me, I'm keeping all mine digitally now. So yeah. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and relay something to you, and then I'll have some quick, here's some, other action items, resources, things, and we'll wrap up. And again, I'll email all of that to you, so if you can't capture it from the slides or things, we'll send them to you later. So if you've got a blank radiogram handy, I'm going to go ahead and relay this to you. And if somebody will be nice and tell me to go or things, that would be nice. And I promise I'll go slow. So please copy. All right, please copy number 404, routine, Kilo 8 Alpha Mike Hotel, 15 Dallas, Texas, August 15. Going to your station. Break. And your station is my nice way of saying to you because I can't name all your call signs.
All right, I will pretend somebody said go. Thank you for attending this training. Hope to receive some traffic from you soon. Figures 7-3. Break. And again, we assume everything, there was no noise on HF at all today. It was just crystal clear, right? And so someone gives me the go ahead. Signed, Aaron, amateur call, Kilo 8, Alpha, Mike, Hotel. End number 404, and no more. How copy? And ideally, you tell me Roger or good copy or that type of thing. So I jumped ahead too far. So here's how that should look on your end. So the number 404 routine, KWH15 Dallas, Texas, the date, then your call sign or that type of thing, and then the message and the signature with two A's, because when they zoom, it cuts part of it off. But there you go. If that's what you copied, then good job. And any questions on that? I'll leave that there for a second. This is kind of where I put an X-ray after training. Hey. So I didn't spend the $5. So it was one of those, it's kind of clear that that's the end of the sentence, like if you were to get it like that. So, and it's one of those fun, sometimes I do it on the air where I fill it out and then I read it and then I read the X-ray knowing that, I didn't need an X-ray after soon, but that's what I wrote on here for some reason because I guess I had an extra $5 in my pocket today. And so I start laughing on the air and, keep reading it. And I go, well, I had extra money, so send it like I told you and keep going or whatever. But yeah, it's one of those, I didn't say X-ray after training. And so that's why we do the check 1-5, because sometimes, yeah, I did that the other day where I put the word the in there somewhere. And, it's just what flowed out of my hands into the keyboard type of thing. And so they're, of course they gave me some heat of, where'd you get that the from? I didn't say that. I'm like, well, that's why my check is wrong. So let me fix it, whatever. So whatever, you get on the net after a while, you have to give yourself some fun or whatever. So I got some fun for that. But yeah, that's why we do the check and, things like that to try and help make sure that things stay the same, type of things. Other questions? I will move forward from this. Just any other questions type of thing. I'll give you some, as you're typing those in, I'll give you some other items you can follow up with. And again, I'll send all these links out. The ARRL does maintain a net directory, and that includes traffic nets. And for some reason, headquarters likes dashes in their URLs, so it's arrl.org/ARRL-net-directory. So you can find, there's filters for traffic nets, and if I want to look by region or things like that. It can be a little fun to use, so by all means, please feel free to reach out to your section staff. So your section traffic manager, your section manager, you can find them at arrl.org/sections, and there will be a list of all the sections, and it can vary. Like in Texas, we have 3, the north, the south, and the west. But find your section, and then you can pull up a list of who your section leadership is, and please reach out. Some of us have our phone numbers listed, but I know for me, email is much easier, but feel free to reach out. We are here to answer questions and things, so please feel free to reach out, or you can reach out to me. And I can try and help. I've looped in other section traffic managers. Let me loop in someone from your area, and we can keep it going from there. Because I'm not going to tell the Arizona section how to do their traffic. Let's loop in the right people and get the conversation going. You've got the reference guide and the radiograms again for those that didn't grab those. k8amh.com/handouts is where you can grab those from. And then if you're looking for some ways to send some traffic, like, okay, I've done this and I don't really want to send it to my family, Well, then you've got a couple of choices. You can a couple of things that I do down here to generate traffic is a weekly trivia question. I post it Sundays at midnight, and that's universal time. So that'll be in about, I don't know, 4 hours from now for the next one. But I just throw a question out there, and then folks send their answers by radiogram. And I find it fascinating because, well, I assign points because, it's trivia, and so let's have points and, who's in first and, whatever. But I get to see how long it takes traffic to get here. And so I can have a gauge, right? Because that's a common question, how long does it take for traffic to move? And, before the answer was, well, now I've got some data, right? One of those data is king type of things. It takes about 2 days, sometimes three. 2 or 3 days is the average for traffic to move. And we're talking New Jersey, Michigan, Florida, for things to get here. So that's a good place for traffic timing to be. Like I introduce something at 10:30 at night on late, and then the next net session to move it out of area is not until tomorrow at 10 a.m. Well, it's going to burn some time waiting to make the hop. So 2 days is a good amount of time for something to move. I'm not worried about 2 days type of thing. NTS Pen Pal is another thing where I just kind of pair up hams so you can start exchanging traffic and get to know each other, or whatever you want to talk about. These were ways to try and generate something other than the welcome to the hobbies and your license expires, please renew if not done so already, that we were generally seeing. It was like, how can we get some other traffic into the system? So these were two ways I came up with. Um, but you want to send a greeting. Some folks send Merry Christmas and those types of things. These are like postcards, so don't send something that the other person wouldn't want talked about over the air, right? If they're going having a medical procedure done and they don't want to talk about it, then I wouldn't send a radiogram. Good luck on that embarrassing thing you don't want to talk about, and have all of us say it on the air over and over again. Anyway, those are a couple of options. And then if you'd like to talk with other traffic handlers, we have a discussion group / email list. It depends on how you want to interact with it. It supports both by email or on the webpage. Groups.io, NTS discussion group, and it doesn't necessarily have to be NTS, but I'm with the ARRL, so it's NTS. But any traffic handler, whether it's a National Traffic System or Radio Relay International, they handle the digital traffic net and a lot of the international connections. There are independent traffic nets, like 7290 traffic net is an independent net, but we're all using the radiogram format, so we all interchange traffic and that type of thing. You're welcome to jump in and participate, ask questions, and that type of thing there too. Lots of other places where you can find info, like for our North Texas section, Facebook, Twitter, the webpage, my webpage, and again, feel free to send an email, type of thing. So that's the main content, and we ran long, but really good questions. Thanks for sticking sticking through it. I really hope you found it useful and interesting, and again, if it was a lot, I understand, and feel free to catch the YouTube video afterwards if you'd like to replay it again. If you want to sign up for the next session, you're welcome to do that. I've had some folks take this twice, and I welcome you to come back. And sometimes you get that new question that pops in because it's, oh, that clicked, but I'm curious about this now, or that type of thing. Again, feel free to reach out. If any other questions I can answer, I'm happy to stick around a little bit longer if there's anything else you'd like me to dive in on. I know we had the question on like WinLink and capitalizing. We could go that way. Sometimes folks ask about, well, what are the next steps beyond this and getting in or thing. Kind of open table. You're welcome to ask me nothing, and I will throw this in the sink. And I don't know if we want to do that. So I need something for Arizona. Yeah, thanks. If the comment for there in I need something like this for the Arizona section. Are you talking about a training session, or that type of thing? As folks have to leave. No, thanks much. I'm going to switch to water now. I'll try and be good. But again, thanks for jumping in, everybody. If it's about trainings, connect with your section leadership and see if they're interested. They might tell you go attend my session, which is fine. You know, it's kind of how folks, however they want to play it. You can talk to your local folks. I've had the question of, well, how do I start a net in my area? The key part um, is how do you get traffic in and out of the area, right? Like if you have a 2 meter repeater that you could all hop in on, um, and I'll just take Arizona. You're in Phoenix, so how do you get something to Anchorage, Alaska, or how do you get it to New York, or how do you need that bridge to get that traffic in and out of Phoenix, and so that's the main homework assignment is how do I do that, and for national traffic systems, so for the ARRL NTS, this is an over-the-air function. So some nets that are not NTS nets will bring Echolink into the picture, and they will relay traffic over Echolink. And they are free to do that because they are independent, right? They're not in the national traffic system. They're independently moving their traffic. In If we're in an incident, and this is the part that I fear, right? So this is not just the, okay, thanks for the Kool-Aid headquarters, let me pass it along. If we're in a real incident and we got to rely on the internet for things, then we're not prepared. And I think back to the recent, it wasn't T-Mobile, but it was one of T-Mobile's third-party providers that had the hiccup, and it caused voice data text to bust on not only T-Mobile but the other carriers. We all went for a ride during that, right? Imagine having to move something while phones are not available, right? But if we build all that muscle memory around, well, we just use Echolink so we don't have to worry about the bands, or well then we're not ready. And so if there is, like, well, I tried moving it over HF and it was rough, then the question is, well, how do we improve it, or what can we do, or that type of thing. So yeah, um, and that's my thoughts on Echolink. So I'll end it there. Let's see what else is in the chat. I have a WinLink account. How do I get started sending or receiving traffic via WinLink? Um, all right, let's dive into WinLink a little bit um, to kind of demystify it. Um, Before I walk through how this would work, generally speaking on WinLink, um, unless you are participating in the digital traffic networks, um, you're only going to be able to really send generally. And so DTN, Digital Traffic Net, and that's an RRI setup, uses WinLink as its backbone, but it has dedicated relay nodes for moving traffic along. So it's not like a general WinLink message where you put it in there and then if it's to you, it just shows up in your inbox as a WinLink message. It's routing through the digital traffic net, which means that when it gets, like if it's coming into Dallas, it's going to come in to one of the DTN participants here in Dallas, and then they're going to work to get that last mile delivery. And so it's not set up to come back direct to you when you're just on the general WinLink system. If you're checking into a WinLink node and asking, do you have anything for my area? You might, yep, there's something for me. I'll go ahead and pull it, right? But from the general WinLink, like if you're doing it over Telnet or that type of thing, that's not where that's gonna you're not going to get them out of there like that. All right, so I have a question. Can I expand that screen? I am on a laptop that's got like a 20 billion by 10 billion resolution that I bring down to 1920 by 1080, and things mostly comply. So the good news is we don't generally need to worry about this screen. This is the general WinLink. You're in WinLink, and this is the inbox. So if you've used email, like you've got inbox, outbox, sent, things on the side, and then the list of messages would be over here in this side. If I wanted to introduce something into the digital traffic net, I would open a message like any other new message, And then in the menu here, you will see this select template. I would click on this, and inside here is a tree structure of choices. In the standard templates section, there is a radiogram section, and again, RRI for Radio Relay International, radiogram forms. The radiogram template is in here. And so once you get into, you select the template, open the standard templates, open up the radiogram area and hit this radiogram template. I'll double click on it. This will then send us to the browser. And hey, guess what? It looks just like a radiogram. So I can zoom in on this. So over here we have the number, and it'll try and track this for you, but you can put any number here you want. And then what's the precedence? What are the handling instructions? What's the station of origin? The check it will figure out on its own. Place of origin, so where you're at. And then the time and date it will try and do for you on its own, or you can fill them in too. Again, the time is optional, so I just leave that blank for this example. 2, and I'll send it to myself. So name, call sign, city, Little Elm, Texas, 75068, phone 469-630-25. I don't call myself that often, so I'm glad I got it. Thank you for attending this training. Hope to receive some traffic from you soon, 7-3. And then I'll tab out of this, and notice how it put it in the groups of 5 for us, which is handy. And then the check became 1-5. And if we look back at the top, it also updated to 1-5 for us. We'll go ahead and sign it. So I'll sign it as myself, which is a very weird piece of traffic to generate something to myself, but there it is. Then you got the op note fields again, but don't need to fill them in, right? So this is all this stuff from the radiograms that we talked about. Here's where it changes. There's nothing that says you can't relay a radiogram between 2 stations just in general. It's not like you have to check in on a traffic net and do that. I mean, you could hop on FM simplex and relay a radiogram across that if you feel like it, right? It's just a format for moving traffic. If you're going to participate in the traffic system, then yeah, you bet radiograms are the language. So, but to get this into the digital traffic net, right here where it says now click here to select a liaison station, when I click on this, what I'm effectively telling the digital traffic net setup is how to route this. And so it's broken down, of course, by, there are regions, kind of like from our call signs, but I wouldn't necessarily use the call sign to pick the region, right? So for example, region 8, Michigan, Oklahoma, West Virginia, or Ohio, Michigan, Ohio, West Virginia, even though I have an 8 call sign, I'm not in Michigan or Ohio or West Virginia. I'm in Texas. So I would tell the system, I need you to route this, right, where the addressee is located, to Texas in region 5. So we're telling the digital traffic system where to send this to help it get to its destination. So in this case, I'm in region 5 as the destination, so I pick region 5. If the station you're sending it to is in Michigan, I'd pick region 8. If the destination was Nebraska, I'd pick region 11 or that type of things. That hopefully makes sense. If questions, let me know. And then we'll go ahead and close this window. And you're going to see now, it's going to fill in as a destination that region 5 of RRI's digital traffic net setup. Now, if you're not going to use DTN, like you just want to send it straight to, like if you want to send it straight to me in WinLink, then you could put my call sign here. But if you want to introduce it into the traffic system, like let's say it's field day next year and you want to get your, you want to put it into the traffic system, then very much use a liaison station and get it into DTN. I'll hit submit and we'll see if this yells at me for not filling it out right. No, it went right. This will go blank and look really scary, but that's okay. That's by design. We'll minimize the browser. And now the radiogram information is in the WinLink message. At this point, change absolutely nothing. So what that template has done in the browser is it's collected all the information for the radiogram and the information that's needed to get it routed through the digital traffic net. And at this point, all you would do is hit post to outbox like you would any other WinLink message to start getting it moving through WinLink. The 2 has that information on how to route it through DTN. Radio Relay International also has an archive for these, so they include the archive. The subject, QTC, is one of those fun Q codes. This is a traffic, one piece of traffic. So traffic, how much traffic? 1, routine message, to Little Elm, Texas zip code. And this is the information that stations use in DTN to understand, do I have any traffic headed to my area, right? Well, this one's going to Little Elm, Texas. I'm there, I'll take it, right? That's all done by the subject. Or they could read it and understand it, but and then we have here the radiogram, 404 routine, Kilo 8 Alpha Mike Hotel 15 Dallas, Texas, August 15. My name, call sign, address, phone number, BT, which if you're in CW, you recognize this. We're breaking. Thank you for attending, the text. Then we break again, and then the signature, my name and call sign, and end of message. And then we would post to Outbox, and then at that point you would connect to WinLink like you normally would, and it would get pushed in through WinLink, and in this case connect into Digital Traffic Net, and start moving through the traffic system all up. If you're doing it for field day, Telnet is not an option because in order to get your field day points, it's an over-the-air function. So if you can, like if you have a Signalink sound modem or a Pactor or something, and you're able to connect to WinLink digitally over the air, you can very much use this and move your messages that way. But if you pick the Telnet session option, well, that's going over the internet rather than over the air. So that's, yes, you can introduce traffic that way if you want to, but for field day, it wouldn't count for field day points because it has to go over the air. All right, let's see. When I select that template, I don't get the text creator, nothing happens. What am I doing wrong? I'm not sending, but via Telnet. So the way you send it won't matter. So whether it's Telnet or a Pactor modem or a sound modem with Signalink, or if your radio has a sound card built into it, that might that might work too. I don't know what browser you're using. I also don't know if you're on Windows or something like that, but it sounds like what you're saying is you go in here and you select Win10. And is your default browser either like Chrome or the new Edge or something? This might be an offline thing and I might have to connect Chrome. Yeah, it should very much just open in there. Yeah, I might have to, chase me offline, send me an email, and I might have to connect you with some WinLink support resources. In North Texas, we have a WinLink Wednesday. It's just a weekly WinLink net that you check in over WinLink, and hey, guess what? There's a WinLink check-in template if you've never seen that, and we just do a WinLink net where we check in and whatever the question of the week is type of thing. And this is to build skills with WinLink. I might connect you with that group to throw the question and say get connected in with this so that every week you can practice with WinLink. And before I give you the link, I have a bit.ly. Oh, bit.ly says WinLink. I think this is it. It is. So I have a shorthand for this. Let me throw this in the chat. WinLink, everyone. WinLink Wednesday. So if you want to get some practice with WinLink and need an excuse, then go ahead and check this out. It also has a groups IO section. Follow up with me offline on it. We can dig more on that, type of thing. But yeah, I'm surprised that it wouldn't just open Chrome like that. It should very much do that. Make sure you have, the usual, the latest version of Chrome, the latest version of WinLink, and that type of thing. So, all right, other questions? I'll scroll up a little bit just to make sure I didn't miss anything. I don't believe I missed anything. I try to stay on top of it pretty close. I know we've hit the 2-hour mark, and we had about 17 that were able to hang around. So um, uh, I had one about Pat, but I was sending. If there's more about sending it to the Pat, yeah, I don't know what that is in Pi land. I do some things in Pies. Um, Amateur radio is an interesting hobby because the amount that you can do with it is a function of how much money you throw at it. So you can do things with Raspberry Pis. You could build antennas, traffic, Skywarn, parades, emergency comms, ICS. I mean, I haven't done too much with Raspberry Pis. I did build a repeater controller using say ham VoIP and one of those sound adapters and hooked it up to a Yaesu machine and things like that. So, but I haven't done anything with traffic handling on Raspberry Pis. Um, all right, other questions? Otherwise, um, again, thanks everybody. If you if I end the meeting and then you think of something, because that's sometimes how it goes for me, feel free to send me an email type of thing, and I will again work on getting the YouTube video posted and the follow-up email with all the resources and links and things like that. I guess as a bonus for those of you that stuck around, usually about 2 weeks from now type of thing, I set up a follow-up session and it's a little less formal. So instead of me sitting here and barking PowerPoint at you, I don't mute everybody. It's just more of a conversation. I give you a couple of weeks to digest and try things out or that type of thing. If you have any follow-up questions, you're welcome to come to this session. I just ask that if you sign up, either attend or let me know. It's the last one I had 5 people sign up, and then when it came time, I had 1 person show up, which was cool for 20 minutes. We just, well, let's figure out who your section traffic manager is, and let's find some net in your area, and those types of things. But it was like, where did the other 4 go? But I'll send some details on that. That'll just be direct registration through Zoom. It won't be the Eventbrite kung fu that I do to cap the registrations. But I'll set that up if you would find that helpful to come back and just meet for another 30 minutes or something and get those final questions in, or how did you do that, or that type of thing. So not seeing other questions, so I'll say again, thanks much everybody. It's 105 here today, so I'll say stay cool, but I have no idea what your weather is. But yeah, it's summer in Texas, and so my family in Michigan. So 105, I'm like, yeah, it's just another day, it's hot. So take it easy, everybody. And 73 from me. And again, any questions, feel free to send me an email. Take care, everybody. We'll catch you later.